Nothing gets us into the Halloween spirit quite like creepy photos. They're eerie, unsettling, and impossible to look away from. But what makes them even more fascinating? The stories behind them. How did these photos come to be? What really happened the moment they were taken? And most importantly, what's hiding in them that we might have missed? We've gathered some of the most haunting photos ever captured. Images that will send chills down your spine if you dare to look. All of these creepy photos are 100% real. So if you're a believer in ghosts and all things supernatural, keep watching because in this video, we're counting down the top 15 creepy photos you won't be able to unsee and the spine-tingling stories behind them. Let's start off with number 15, the Sleeping Dead. At first, this angel statue in Highgate Cemetery looks peaceful, even comforting. But stare a little longer, and that feeling shifts. The way the figure reclines, eyes closed, hands resting gently, it looks eerily like it's not just a statue, more like something waiting. Highgate Cemetery in London is already legendary for its gothic horror vibes. Built in 1839, it's the final resting place for nearly 200,000 people. Over time, nature has taken over, leaving gravestones cracked and twisted, swallowed by ivy. Ghost hunters swear this place is teeming with supernatural energy, and it's even home to the infamous Highgate vampire. This statue, meant to bring peace, now feels more like a silent reminder of death's inevitability. Maybe that's why it's so, well, a lot of unsettling, because the more you look, the more you wonder, what happens when it wakes up? Number 14, a quiet country home. What looks like a charming country home in upstate New York is actually one of the 42 buildings that made up the Trudeau Sanatorium, a facility where thousands of tuberculosis patients were sent before modern antibiotics existed. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, TB was a death sentence, and sanatoriums like this were built in isolated locations to prevent outbreaks. Patients came here hoping for a cure, but many never left. In this eerie 1948 photo, a nurse dressed in white is seen walking up the steps, carrying supplies for those inside. The contrast is striking, the peaceful setting, the looming reality of death within. Even today, abandoned sanatoriums are among the most haunted places in the world. With so much suffering and loss trapped in these walls, many believe the spirits of patients never really left. If you ever step inside, don't be surprised if you hear faint coughing in the distance, even when no one else is there. Number 13, San Francisco earthquake. This haunting image shows the aftermath of the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906, a disaster that reduced much of the city to rubble. The earthquake struck early in the morning on April 18th with a 7.9 magnitude, but the real destruction came from the fires that raged for days afterward. Entire neighborhoods were obliterated. Victorian homes, like the ones shown here on Howard Street, crumbled as fire swallowed block after block. More than 3,000 people died, making it one of the deadliest disasters in American history. And here's the eerie part. Many believe San Francisco never fully recovered. Some areas, especially those built over the ruins, are said to be haunted by the victims who were never found. Paranormal investigators claim to hear footsteps in abandoned basements, whispers in old buildings, and even shadowy figures moving through the remains of structures buried beneath modern skyscrapers. It's one thing to rebuild, but when the past is still lurking beneath the surface, some tragedies never really fade away. Number 12, Deadly Woman. This haunting image of Carla Fay Tucker captures one of the most controversial criminal cases in modern Texas history. Convicted of capital murder, Tucker admitted to killing 2 people with a pickaxe during a drug-fueled robbery in 1983. But what made her case different? Her public conversion to Christianity while on death row. Tucker's charm and apparent transformation captivated the media, with many advocating for clemency, including high-profile figures like the Pope and even some of her victims' families. Yet, Texas Governor George W. Bush denied her appeals, and on February 3, 1998, Tucker became the first woman executed in Texas since 1863 via lethal injection. Her final words? A tearful farewell, professing love and faith in God. Whether she was truly redeemed or simply manipulated by the system remains a heated debate. But one thing is certain, her story remains one of the most haunting and divisive in death row history. Number 11. Karl Wallenda's triumphant moment. This photo captures Karl Wallenda, the legendary tightrope walker, in one of his final triumphs, crossing London's Tower Bridge in 1978. A breathtaking display of skill and fearlessness, Wallenda had been performing death-defying stunts since childhood as part of the Flying Wallendas, a famous circus family known for high-wire acts without safety nets. But just months after this photo was taken, Wallenda attempted one last tightrope walk in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and tragedy struck. Buffeted by strong winds, the 73-year-old lost his balance mid-walk and fell to his death. The eerie part? Wallenda himself once said, "Life is being on the wire. Everything else is just waiting." It's almost as if he knew he'd never retire, his fate tied to the very wire that made him famous. Even today, many refuse to watch the footage of his final moments, calling it one of the most haunting real-life tragedies ever caught on film. Number 10. A lonely crime scene. In the late 1940s, Martha Beck and Raymond Fernandez, better known as the Lonely Hearts Killers, embarked on a gruesome killing spree, luring victims through personal ads in newspapers. Beck, an insecure woman desperate for love, became obsessed with Fernandez, a con man who used voodoo rituals to seduce women. Together, they scammed, seduced, and murdered as many as 20 women. This chilling photo shows the Queens, New York basement where police discovered Janet Fay's body buried beneath the floor after she refused to give up her money. Their final victims? Delphine Downing and her 2-year-old daughter, Raynell, whose murder led to their arrest in 1949. Their trial was a media spectacle, with Beck proclaiming, "I'd rather burn at the stake than live without Raymond." She got her wish. Both were sentenced to death and executed in 1951 via the electric chair at Sing Sing prison. What you do, what you get. Number 9. Ghostly figures. At first glance, this tunnel mural in North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany, looks like a striking work of street art. But when you know the story behind it, it's something much, much darker. These ghostly figures represent the 21 people who died in a tragic stampede during the 2010 Love Parade, an electronic music festival that ended in chaos. Thousands of people were funneled into a tunnel with no escape routes, and as panic set in, the crowd collapsed in on itself. Hundreds were injured, and by the time it was over, 21 lives were lost. Now, their spirits seem to linger in the very place where they died. The mural, created as a tribute, eerily captures the silhouettes of those who never made it out. Some visitors claim they feel an overwhelming sense of sadness while walking through the tunnel. Others say that if you stand in silence, you can still hear the echoes of the crowd, the music, the screams, the last moments frozen in time. Number 8. The scariest swimming hole. Jacob's Well, a natural spring in the Texas Hill Country, looks like a dream. Crystal clear water, a 13-foot wide opening, and a refreshing escape from the scorching heat. But beneath the surface, it's a death trap. The well descends 30 feet, leading to a series of treacherous underwater tunnels that have claimed the lives of at least 8 people. Many of these victims were expert divers, drawn by the challenge of navigating the tight, winding passageways. But the caves are unpredictable. Loose sediment kicks up, causing zero visibility, and sudden currents trap divers in tight spaces. Some tunnels lead nowhere, disorienting even the most experienced swimmers. Others narrow dangerously, making it impossible to turn around. Most deaths occur when divers go too deep and can't escape in time. Despite the risks, thrill seekers keep coming, drawn to the forbidden mystery of Jacob's Well, one of the most beautiful yet deadly places to swim. Number 7. The Challenger Explosion. On January 28, 1986, millions of Americans tuned in to watch Space Shuttle Challenger launch into the sky. Among the 7 crew members was Krista McAuliffe, a school teacher selected from 11,000 applicants to be part of NASA's Teacher in Space project. It was supposed to be a historic moment. Instead, 73 seconds after liftoff, Challenger broke apart mid-air, leaving nothing but a fireball and plumes of smoke in the sky. Investigators later determined that a faulty O-ring in the rocket booster caused the disaster, something engineers had warned about, but were ignored. The image of the disintegrating shuttle, combined with the shock of those watching live, remains one of the most haunting moments in space exploration. NASA wouldn't send astronauts into space again for nearly 3 years, forever haunted by the catastrophe that should have been prevented. Number 6. Chernobyl Kindergarten. When Reactor 4 at Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded on April 26, 1986, it released 400 times more radiation than the Hiroshima bomb. An entire city of 50,000 people, Pripyat, was evacuated within 36 hours, leaving homes, schools, and hospitals frozen in time. This eerie photo captures what remains of a kindergarten classroom in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. An old chair, covered in dust, holds a doll's severed head, its vacant eyes staring into nothingness. Rusting cribs, broken toys, and crumbling walls surround it, a stark reminder of the children who once played here, unaware that their lives would change forever. Even today, radiation lingers, making parts of Chernobyl uninhabitable for thousands of years. The ghost town of Pripyat stands as one of the creepiest, most haunted places on Earth, where time stopped when disaster struck. Number 5. The Family. If ventriloquist dummies freak you out, this photo will keep you up at night. The man in the picture is Jules Vernon, a famous ventriloquist from the early 1900s, posing with his disturbingly lifelike wooden family. But his real-life story is just as eerie as his dummies. On Christmas Day, 1920, while performing a live show, Vernon suddenly went blind. No warning, no explanation. Yet, despite losing his sight, he continued performing for years. His career finally ended in 1937 when he was hit by a speeding taxi at age 70, dying instantly. Some say he never saw it coming, literally. Many of Vernon's original dummies have since gone missing, with some resurfacing in private collections. But according to urban legend, some of them move on their own. Whether that's true or not, one thing is certain. This photo looks like something straight out of a horror movie. Number 4. Double Exposure Girl. Ever seen a photo that just doesn't sit right? This eerie black and white image is one of those. At first glance, it looks like a normal vintage photograph of a little girl. But then you notice she's there twice. It's likely a result of film double exposure, a common issue before digital cameras. Sometimes old film would be accidentally exposed to light twice, overlaying 2 moments onto the same frame. But here's the unsettling part. The second figure isn't perfectly aligned. It's slightly off, as if the girl was captured moving between worlds. The hazy effect, her vintage dress, and the grainy black and white tones only add to the haunting feel. Some claim these kinds of mistakes aren't mistakes at all, but glimpses of something we weren't supposed to see. Paranormal believers argue this could be proof of an echo of the past, a spirit caught between dimensions. Accidental or not, it's definitely one photo you won't forget. Number 3. Tsunami Ghost Ship. Ghost ships are unsettling, But this one is even more chilling because it wasn't abandoned. It was taken by the ocean itself. In March 2011, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Japan triggered a massive tsunami, sweeping 5 million tons of debris into the Pacific. Among the wreckage, the Ryuun Maru was a Japanese fishing vessel that became a true ghost ship. For over a year, it drifted untouched, carried by ocean currents until it appeared off the coast of Alaska in 2012. The ship, a danger to maritime traffic, was targeted by the U.S. Coast Guard, which sank it with explosives. The eerie part? Even as it was blown apart, it refused to go down immediately, burning and drifting for hours before finally sinking. A vessel that should have been lost forever, returning from the depths like a specter of the tsunami's devastation, a ghost ship in the truest sense. Number 2. The doomed Romanov family. In the early hours of July 17, 1918, Russia's royal family met a brutal end. Tsar Nicholas II, Tsarina Alexandra, their 5 children, and 4 loyal servants were led into a basement in Yekaterinburg, told they were posing for a photograph. Moments later, Bolshevik guards opened fire, executing them all. The 300-year-old Romanov dynasty was wiped out in minutes. The family had been prisoners since 1917, following Nicholas's abdication. His poor leadership, especially dragging Russia into World War I, had fueled widespread unrest, leading to revolution. This eerie 1914 photo shows the Romanovs just 4 years before their downfall, oblivious to the tragedy that awaited them. For decades, rumors persisted that Anastasia or Alexei survived, but DNA tests later confirmed the grim truth. Today, their fate remains one of history's most haunting royal tragedies. Number 1. Lockdown streets. It's an image that defined a gen, the normally bustling streets of Shanghai, eerily deserted, bathed in an eerie stillness. Taken in April 2020, this photo captures the unprecedented silence that swept across one of the world's busiest cities during the COVID-19 lockdowns. With a population of over 25 million, Shanghai's streets are usually packed 24/7, a city that never sleeps. However, as strict lockdown measures were enforced, markets, highways, and once crowded sidewalks were emptied overnight. Surveillance drones patrolled overhead, loudspeakers blared warnings, and the only movement came from hazmat-suited workers disinfecting the roads. Beyond the eerie visual, the lockdown came with harsh consequences. Citizens were trapped in their apartments for weeks, food shortages, and mass testing lines stretched for miles. Some even resorted to desperate pleas from their balconies. This photo isn't just creepy, it's a reminder of a time when the world stood still, and a silent city symbolized fear and isolation. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.